Hello, my name is Paulina Enck with Federalist, and I'm here speaking with Phelim McAleer about his new movie, Obamagate. Thank you so much for being here, Phelim, and talking with us about this.
Thank you, Paulina. Good to be on, and it's a pleasure.
So, this is a fantastic movie. Could you tell the listeners when it'll be coming out?
It's going live. It's going to premiere on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, free to view. We thought that was important that people see the truth that's in this and be entertained as well, which is important.
For those who haven't seen the film, since this is probably releasing before it premieres, what is it about?
Well, it's the true story, not just based on a true story. It is the actual true story of the plot, and I use that word deliberately, the plot to undermine candidate Trump and President Trump from the FBI and DOJ, from the swamp, really. And, it definitely, this happened. And the unique thing about this movie is that the script is verbatim. So everything in the script is either taken from text messages, memos, congressional grilling by congressmen, some of it behind closed doors, some of it just recently declassified. Many of the documents have just recently been declassified. And it's amazing. These mandarins, these rogue FBI agents, these bureaucrats, this deep state, they wrote everything down because Hillary was going to win. And no one was ever going to know that what they were doing behind closed doors to undermine the democratic process and then to eventually undermine democracy.
A major theme, it seemed, in the film was that they put so much in writing. You'd think that one of the foremost members of counterintelligence and an experienced attorney would be smarter than to write everything down, but they didn't. How did you seem to put the focus on that in your script?
Well, I mean, you couldn't really resist it. We're talking here about the Peter Strzok and Lisa Page text messages. You can't really resist that. They were having this affair. I think it's part hubris, part young love. Even though these people are middle aged, but who doesn't get all loquacious when they're in love? And they I suppose maybe they hadn't talked to anyone. Maybe they were so excited about being able to talk to someone. They put everything in those text messages, and the text messages are part James Bond, part Jean Le Carrier, and part teen romance magazine. And some of them are quite embarrassing, but a lot of humanity is there. I remember when we did FBI Lovebirds, which this is a new version. This is a moving on. Obamagate is different from this, but we did FBI Lovebirds, which incorporated a lot of those text messages. And I remember a friend of Lisa Page, a journalist, said, well, if they wanted to demonize Lisa Page, they have failed. These texts humanize her, and I just thought, you missed the point of art. You missed the point of what we were trying to do. I was trying to humanize Lisa Page. I was trying to humanize Peter Strzok. People don't want to see cardboard cutout villains. They want to see complex human beings who make mistakes, who are flawed. And I suppose Peter Strzok was the foremost counterintelligence expert in the world, without doubt. And he conducted an affair over his work phone. He wrote almost treasonous texts over his work phone. And I think it's part the craziness of their affair, the subterfuge, but it's also hubris. It's also they've been in the job too long. They were arrogant. And I also think it's they had got to a stage, they genuinely believed what they were doing was for the good of the country. The country may elect this ignoramus called Donald Trump, but they were going to save the country. They had a Jesus complex, and that's why they were so careless.
You referenced just a minute ago FBI Lovebirds. This is not the first time you've tackled this subject. What was the path from the play FBI Lovebirds, featuring a similar story with largely the same cast, Dean Cain and Kristy Swanson as Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, to the Obamagate film?
just more stuff had come out. John Brennan had started talking. James Comey, of course, had started talking, and the Flynn memos had all come out too. So we have the whole. There was no Flynn when I done FBI Lovebirds. Flynn was still going to be sentenced. He had broken the law. Then the background to Flynn. And these are people. These are supposed to be mutually serving the state, serving the people. They are planning. You have senior FBI agents, the top echelons of the FBI, saying our goal is to go there and to force Flynn into a lie to get him fired or maybe to prosecute him. It's a complete reverse of what they should be doing. If you're going to investigate a crime, you go to investigate a crime. You don't go to create a crime. Here they are planning to create a crime because they didn't like someone that Trump had hired because of his foreign policy beliefs. And his foreign policy beliefs, by the way, were what Trump had been elected on. Trump had been elected on, we're going to, have a relationship with Russia. They didn't like that. So, and Flynn was the embodiment of that. So they had to take out Flynn. So there's all that stuff that has come out since then. And I felt that was important to incorporate as well.
Well, I agree. I think one of the most powerful moments in the film was when you see Peter Strzok talking about how he can entrap Flynn and basically find a way to almost force him into a lie so that they have an excuse to prosecute him. And it was powerful. But you just brought up Comey and Brennan, going from one of the sadder moments to one of the lighter parts. What was up with their costuming, the teddy bear and the Boy Scout uniform?
Well, James Comey is a Boy Scout. In his own mind, James Comey is a Boy Scout with all the medals, all badges or whatever you call them here in America.
There were a lot of badges on that.
Yeah, well, James Comey, I'm sure he was a Boy Scout actually, and I'm sure he got all the badges. We decided to portray him as he is in his own mind. John Brennan is just crazy, and we thought a man, he has that kind of King Lear feeling, King Lear on the moor, in the throes of his insanity, that the world has rejected him. Everything that he thought he knew is no longer his dog. He's adrift on the moor, and you just imagine King Lear with his teddy bear. King Lear is there with the clown or with the fool, and it's that kind of man shouting at clouds, and that's what John Brennan has. And this is a man who was the head of the CIA. This is a man who knew there was no evidence that Trump had colluded with Russia, and he knew it early. This is a man who knew there was no there, but continued to write on Twitter and continued to give interviews saying there was. This is a very serious, and it's so serious that we felt we had to make a laugh out of it, because if you really portrayed it as it is now, the texts and everything he says is 100% verbatim. But yes, we do have him carrying a teddy bear and in bedroom slippers, because these are the rantings and ravings of a delirious old man.
With Comey and Brennan, you primarily use them through their tweets, which was a bit of a change from FBI Lovebirds, which was predominantly text messages and court transcripts. One of the funniest parts, again, was watching Comey react to every like and retweet that he received. How did you decide to handle the more technological side of some of these things, like the fact that Brennan and Comey are verified? They reference that every time they tweet. Or the listing of the likes, or having Peter Strzok name every single exclamation point he does, and the prevalence of the words winky face in the more salacious of texts.
Yeah, actually, funny, that almost came about by accident. I think that was Dean Cain's decision and Kristy Swanson's decision in the original FBI Lovebirds. I think, we wrote it, me and my co-writer, we wrote, they did do a lot of exclamation points, and they did do a lot of question marks, and they did do a lot of emojis, winky faces and smiley faces. And, I suppose it's just the idea of the most senior counterintelligence officer on the planet, who's involved in very, very, very serious matters, on his work phone, texting his lover, using emojis like winky faces and smiley faces. You have to let people know that that's there. And that was the easiest way we could do it. And you have to know that this guy is spending all this time, exclamation point, exclamation point. Sometimes 6 exclamation points, 3 question marks, and 2 winky faces or whatever it is. And it's like, this is what they're doing. And by the way, this is what they're doing on your dime, when they should be protecting the country from enemies, foreign and domestic. And they're involved in this embarrassing teen romance kind of communications.
What drove you to want to have the film use exclusively the text that is verifiably said by the people involved and have it all be 100% verbatim rather than, say, like a lot of films dramatize other actions?
Well, I mean, part of it is, if you're not part of the mainstream orthodoxy, they demand a higher standard of you. So if we were to do like Hollywood does, based on a true story, and add drama, people would accuse us of making stuff up, of lying, of being propagandists. So we felt this is a great way to say to people, here you go. This is exactly what happened. And, it made it bulletproof in one way. Also, people really, really respect the verbatim format. And I noticed that you get a different reaction in a play or in a drama when you fictionalize something or when you use verbatim, because when you use verbatim, people know that every word they are listening to was uttered by another human being and is real. And normally in a play, people are sitting back saying, absorbing what the playwright has written. But in verbatim, they're leaning forward, listening to what the characters are saying, because they know every word is important and every word is part of that human drama. And this is a real human drama, not an invented human drama by a playwright. So that's the 2 reasons that I think verbatim is useful and very powerful.
Honestly, I don't know how you could get more engaging than some of the reality of this story. No one needed to make anything up.
Yeah. No, they say, it's a cliche, truth is stranger in fiction, but I'll tell you, it's certainly funnier in business than I know.
Especially some of those text messages. It was interesting that you referenced conservatives being accused of propaganda when a lot of political media from the left has been openly admitting that they are doing it, at least with a part and intent to time things with the election. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking particularly right now of Showtime series, The Comey Rule. I haven't seen it. I don't have Showtime, but they admitted openly that they wanted to time it before the election. And have you seen it? And what are your thoughts on the way that the left handles politics in media?
I have seen it. It's humorless. It's worthy. James Comey is a saint. He's not a Boy Scout, but he is a saint. There's a couple of things I said. Yes, I mean, they were quite open about it. In fact, Showtime said, actually, by the way, it's not coming out till after the election. There was an open rebellion, and the director wrote a letter to Showtime, and they said, we will not assist in publicizing this mini-series if you do not release it before the election. And, they were quite open. And he says, the only reason I got such a wonderful cast to take part was because they knew it was coming out before the election. So they were quite open about it. One thing, I mean, if you want to know about Showtime and the veracity of it, so you've seen FBI Lovebirds now, you've seen Obamagate, and you're very familiar with that text where Kristy Swanson Lisa Page says, Trump's not going to win, is he? And Peter Strzok said, this is a text message. No, he's not. We will stop it. Right? So that is a bona fide text between these 2 people. Peter Strzok at that stage is investigating candidate Trump. So there he is pledging to stop him being elected while supposed to be impartially investigating him. In the Comey Rule, they take that text and put it in the mouths of Page and Strzok. It's not a text. And Lisa Page says, Trump's not going to win, is he? And Strzok turns and says, no, he's not. We'll stop it. And she then says, oh, that's a bit much. She says something. And he goes, no. When I say we, I mean America. So
his justification from the congressional hearing.
Yes. But they added to the text at the time. They added to the conversation at the time. That never happened.
That's absurd.
That is absurd. So that is what Hollywood will do. That is just an outright distortion. And again, you see, but the problem is they lose their art over that. They lose their drama. When you have these perfect people, this is not dramatic. If they left that the way it is and made these flawed people, it would be much more interesting and much more engaging. But they don't want to present these people as flawed. They wanted to present them as saints and Trump as evil. And when you've got those kind of cardboard good guys and cardboard bad guys, then you just have bad art and bad drama. And you have a lie as well. But actually, I think bad art, bad drama is the worst of it.
I doubt that anything could be more entertaining than any of their angelic saints could be more entertaining than the truth in this story. What do you want viewers to take away from the film, both on the left and on the right?
I think, look, this is what was going on at the upper echelons of the FBI. This is what they were writing down. Can you imagine what was going on behind closed doors? The Mueller report. So almost 27 phones from people in the Mueller report have either gone missing or have been wiped. Right? This is what they're involved in, this cover-up. So this is what we know they were at, and there's more to come out. These are people. This is the FBI, which is supposed to be an impartial investigative organization, and the CIA was involved too. They were involved in trying to stop the election of Donald Trump, and after the election of Donald Trump, they were involved in trying to undermine his presidency. That, whether you're from the left or the right, that is not acceptable. And okay, you may not like Donald Trump, but they may be coming for Donald Trump this election cycle. They'll be coming for your candidate 2 elections. If you let them away with this, then it's fair game. And you're saying to these organizations, you can use all the FISA warrants and all the undercover agents to investigate any presidential candidate anytime you think that their policy, and that was the thing, it was Trump's policy. They felt Trump's policies were endangering America, but that's not your call. That's the American people's call, and they disagreed. The American people disagreed, and as Strzok said, the American people got the president they deserved. Strzok just didn't like that and wanted to change that, but he shouldn't have been involved in that. He should have, he was rightly fired, even though he's fighting back now. And it remains to be seen whether he should be charged with breaking the law.
It's such a compelling story and so effective for drama. What was it that initially drew you to tell this story and to continue with it as it continues to develop?
Well, it has the word Trump in it, which is always a draw. It's a love story, right? At the end of it, right? There's these 2 people at the center who are in love, and it's a tragedy actually. Both professional, King Lear again. They start off so in love and so on top of their game, and they're the cool kids, and they're out there and they're flying in Black Hawks, and they're it's a very sexy lifestyle, and what they're doing is important and all that. And do they know it's important, and do they feel important? And they're up there, and you see them crash and burn, both personally and professionally, in the middle of one of the biggest news stories in the last 20 years. So it's compelling drama. You can't turn your face away from it.
Oh, completely. As to your point about the theatricality of it and the more Shakespearean comparisons, in this film, you staged it like a play but filmed it. How, as a director, did you balance the theatricality of a stage production with the cinematic demands of a film?
Well, I wasn't involved in, I wasn't the director on this. Cliff was the director on it. But it's a trade-off, right? And, it's funny. What my inspiration for that was Hamilton. Disney did the same a while back with Hamilton. So they had, obviously, Hamilton, the actors in Hamilton had been performing their show for years. Disney had all the resources, and Disney, I think, filmed it over several days, different shots, close-ups, and the whole thing. We did ours in one day, two run through, and obviously it's a stage production, so it's not as dramatic as a movie. But I think there's a certain reality that comes from a stage production too. You the artificiality of a movie, you lose that, you gain more reality. And I think it really works well when the people are being interrogated and the lights are on them. And I think people very quickly forget that it is a stage, and you really get involved in the characters of Struck and Page and Brennan and Comey and all the rest of them.
I think the more live aspect gives it a very intimate feel.
Yes.
Another interesting choice that really stood out to me was the inclusion of an audience. It was subtle, but punctuating some of the more dramatic moments were gasps or laughter at some of the more humorous moments. What was the decision to include not like a laughing track or studio audience by any means, but giving some editorialization and reaction from these very seemingly natural responses from an audience?
Yeah, actually, that was to help the actors, right? Because, an actor has to respond to something. And if you have a camera, the actor will respond to the camera. And we just felt that might make it kind of because it's a theater, you're in a theater production, but then you're responding to a camera. It just won't pop as much. So we brought in, there was COVID rules. So we had basically, there was only 15 people allowed in the theater, in the audience. We had to separate them out. And it was to give the actors something to respond to so they would work with to the audience, not to the camera.
Okay, thank you. One of the penultimate scene of the film featured not just the central characters we've been following throughout the story, but several other Obama administration officials who participated in either creating, enforcing, or propagating this collusion scandal and hoax, and featuring both their comments to the press, but then later their sworn testimony in which they had to each admit over and over again that they had nothing, knew nothing, and pretty much knew that they were lying. That expansion was really powerful. What was the choice to include so many people?
Actually, well, thank you. That was the choice of my co-writer, Brian Godawa. He felt that that was important, that these people were going on TV, they were speaking at the John F. Kennedy Center, they were speaking all over the world, actually, saying, that there was evidence that the Steele dossier was true, that there was evidence that Trump was working with Putin, that he was possibly a KGB asset, and all this. And then we didn't know it at the time, but they were being interviewed under oath by a congressional committee, and under oath they weren't going to lie, and they were completely contradicting what they were saying in public. They were saying, we have no evidence that the dossier is true. We have no evidence that Trump has any connection to Russia. We have no evidence that the campaign colluded with Russia. And then they would just leave that room, go on CNN and say, with lots of evidence. I mean, there's loads of evidence, and we've all these incidents that have been confirmed. So we just wanted to show that at this level, former intelligence operatives, former administration officials, and national security people, they will lie for partisan political reasons. And it's wrong for us to give them the cover of, they're former intelligence, they wouldn't lie. Looks like they would, and people need to know that.
Thank you. Is there any upcoming projects that you'd want to have listeners and viewers keep an eye out on?
Well, who could resist Hunter Biden, the movie?
Looking forward to that one.
You got the Ukraine, you got China, you got the millions of dollars, you got the corruption, you got marrying or having the baby with a stripper, you got having the affair with his brother's widow, you got, am I missing anything? You got the meth, or is it a meth pipe or a crack cocaine pipe?
That is the debate Twitter cannot answer right now.
Yes, and you've got him getting thrown out of the Navy, you've got Joe Biden, you've got Obama, you've got corruption in the Ukraine. What a story! So that's something I'd like to tackle, and he's a great character also. And I think we're going to have a lot of documents and a lot of emails to work with. So
a lot of emails that no one is allowing, that they're trying their hardest to keep people from seeing.
Well, I mean, that is, that's when I come in. You don't get, if you don't, do you want to plow through all the emails that are not on the mainstream media, even though they should be? Well, I'll make a play out of it or a film out of it, and you can have a laugh and learn the truth at the same time.
Well, thank you for everyone who wants to be simultaneously entertained while learning the stories that, for no discernible reason aside from partisanship, aren't being told. Everyone, check out Obamagate, the film premiering this evening on YouTube. And thank you so much, Phelim, for speaking with us.
Yes, it's obamagatemovie.com.
Obamagatemovie.com. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Paulina.